Every day, roughly 60,000 people cross between two countries without ever seeing the sky. They sit in a carriage, they read a book, they check their phone. And underneath them, 75 meters below the seabed of one of the busiest stretches of ocean on Earth, they are moving through a tunnel that should not, by any normal measure of engineering, exist.
Okay, when you put it like that, it's a little bit terrifying. 60,000 people, every day, under the sea.
The Channel Tunnel, or as most people call it, the Chunnel.
The Chunnel. And I love that nickname because it sounds completely silly for something that is actually one of the most insane engineering feats ever pulled off.
50 kilometers of tunnel connecting England to France. 37 kilometers directly under the sea. The longest undersea tunnel ever built. But the story of how it got there is stranger than the tunnel itself. The first person to seriously propose a tunnel under the English Channel was a French engineer named Albert Mathieu. The year was 1802. Napoleon was in charge.
Wait, Napoleon?
Mathieu's plan: dig a tunnel, light it with oil lamps, let horse-drawn carriages ride through it, build an artificial island halfway across for the horses to rest.
So Napoleon, the Napoleon, sees a plan for an undersea tunnel in 1802 and says, yes?
Napoleon liked the idea so much, he took it to the British.
Horses, in a tunnel, under the sea, with oil lamps. What could possibly go wrong?
The British said no.
Of course they did.
And every time someone proposed a tunnel for the next 180 years, Britain said no. Not because it couldn't be built, because they were afraid of invasion. If France ever had a tunnel straight into England, how do you stop an army from walking through?
Okay, but also kind of fair. Like from a 19th century British perspective, that is a legitimate national security concern.
So for nearly 2 centuries, every serious tunnel design included a feature the French didn't love: flood chambers, explosive charges, collapse mechanisms, ways to destroy the tunnel on the British end if anything went wrong.
Wait, so the British spent 180 years insisting that any channel tunnel had to come with, let me get this right, built-in self-destruct mechanisms.
The first channel tunnel designs were basically booby-trapped.
That is such a deeply British paranoia.
Fast forward to 1987, the project that finally got built. 13,000 engineers, 11 massive boring machines, each the length of 2 football pitches, weighing 12,000 tons. 6 years of digging, round the clock.
Okay, so the project actually happens, nearly 200 years after Napoleon.
But here's the part that floored me. The British and French didn't meet in the middle.
Hold on, they didn't meet in the middle?
The British dug further. For years, both sides bored towards each other, using satellite guidance accurate to within a few centimeters. When they broke through in 1990, workers from both sides shook hands through the hole. But the British had dug more than half the distance.
So there's a winner. The British won the tunnel race. I love that this was a competition nobody officially told them about.
And the geology is almost too convenient to be real. A layer of rock called chalk marl, 100 million years old, formed when dinosaurs walked the Earth. It runs in a nearly continuous band from the cliffs of Dover, straight under the Channel, all the way to France.
That's genuinely wild. So the geology of the English Channel just happens to contain a perfect tunneling layer?
Soft enough to tunnel through, strong enough to support the weight, and almost completely waterproof.
That is one of those facts that almost makes you believe in fate. Like the Earth spent 100 million years preparing a route for this tunnel.
If that rock hadn't existed, the tunnel would have been impossible. But there it is, a perfect geological corridor placed between 2 countries that have spent 1,000 years trying to invade each other. The finished tunnel is actually 3 tunnels in parallel, 2 large ones for trains in each direction, and a smaller service tunnel between them. Every 375 meters, there's a cross passage, so passengers can evacuate sideways if anything goes wrong.
Wait, 3 tunnels? I only knew about the one. Oh, that's actually genius. A safety tunnel between the two train tunnels so you can always escape sideways.
3 pumping stations under the sea run 24 hours a day, sucking out a mixture of groundwater and seawater that constantly seeps through. Because yes, the tunnel does leak. It was designed to leak. You can't build something under 200 meters of water and expect it to be bone dry.
Of course it leaks. It's under the ocean.
And here's one I love. Because of different regulations, there were actual Anglo-French negotiations about whether the shuttle trains could carry hot tea. French law limited liquid temperatures. British passengers, do not compromise on tea. This was a real point of diplomatic debate.
The tea negotiation is my favorite thing in this entire story. Imagine being the diplomat who had to fly to Paris specifically to argue about tea temperature. That, genuinely, may be the most British sentence ever spoken.
The final cost in 1994 was £9 billion, 80% over budget. Today, it would cost $27 billion. 10 workers died during construction.
10 workers died. That's worth sitting with for a moment. A project this massive, we tend to celebrate the achievement and forget the cost.
And the project left behind one of the boring machines, buried permanently under the English Channel. Its crew couldn't bring it back up because the finished tunnel was too narrow. So they dug a side chamber, parked the machine, and sealed it in forever.
Wait, there's a tunnel boring machine still down there?
That boring machine is still down there, right now, under the sea between England and France.
So there's a 12,000-ton machine entombed under the English Channel, right now. Nobody's ever going to see it again. That is such a strange kind of monument.
So the next time you see Eurostar gliding between London and Paris in 2.5 hours, remember what it took. 200 years of failed proposals, bombs in the blueprints, 13,000 workers, a rock layer left over from the age of dinosaurs, and a 12,000-ton machine that will never see daylight again.
I love it, honestly. The tunnel is everywhere in pop culture. Eurostar ads, travel shows, the Olympics. But the actual story of how it got built is almost forgotten. 2 centuries of refusal, booby-traps, a dinosaur-era rock formation that happened to be perfect, and a machine buried under the sea.
The Channel Tunnel, one of the wonders of the modern world, and one of the strangest stories in engineering history.
Would you take Eurostar now that you know this? Me too, honestly. Tell us in the comments, have you been through the tunnel? Did you know you were 75 meters under the seabed? And would you still go if the British tradition of booby traps was still in place? The Channel Tunnel. Much weirder than it looks from the inside.